All right, let's talk about hiring. Specifically, let's talk about an AI that could completely flip the script on how we find and hire people. It's a system called AgileX, and the promise is pretty bold. It's designed to interview candidates with all the smarts and intuition of a top-tier senior recruiter. So, let's dive in. But before we can really appreciate the solution, we have to talk about the problem. And if you've ever tried to hire someone, or even just applied for a job, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the hiring bottleneck, that soul-crushing, slow-moving process of applications, endless scheduling, and the same phone calls over and over again. I mean, just look at this timeline. This is how it usually works, right? For the first few days, applications just pour in. Then you spend almost a week just sifting through resumes. After that, the dreaded email back and forth, trying to schedule calls. By the time you actually talk to people and huddle up to compare notes, 18 days, 18, have just vanished. It's a huge waste of time, and let's be honest, your best candidates are not waiting around that long. And the cost of all that waiting, well, it adds up. On average, for just a single open role, recruiters are spending 10 hours on those first-round screening calls. 10 hours. Now multiply that by all the open positions a company has. It's just a massive productivity killer. So there has to be a better way, right? Well, this is where a system like AgileX comes into play, and it's designed to just completely bulldoze that bottleneck. The cool thing here is that it's designed to be a win-win. For candidates, it's all about making life easier. You can do your first interview whenever you want, 24/7, and it only takes about 15 minutes. No more scheduling nightmares. And for the hiring team, it's all about efficiency. The AI is consistent, it scores everyone fairly, and it automatically highlights the people you really need to talk to. So let's put it side by side. Remember that 18-day slog we just talked about? Look at this. A candidate applies, they get an invite to interview right away. They finish it on their own time, the AI scores them instantly. And by day two, the recruiter is only looking at the very best people. By day 3, you're already talking to your top candidates in a real interview. We've gone from 18 days down to the 3. That is a world of difference. And all that saved time adds up to this incredible number, a potential 90% reduction in the time recruiters spend on that initial screening phase. That's not just a small improvement. That is a complete game changer. It frees up your team to focus on what really matters, having deep, strategic conversations with the best candidates. Okay, so it's fast. I get it. But you might be thinking, hang on, isn't this just another one of those simple chatbots that asks me 5 questions and calls it a day? Well, no. When you look at the architecture behind this, it's pretty clear this is aiming to be something much, much more sophisticated. See, the goal here isn't just to read off a script. The real magic is what they're calling adaptive intelligence. It's not just following a rigid path. It's designed to think like a seasoned interviewer, knowing when to ask a follow-up question, when to dig a little deeper, and how to react to what the candidate is actually saying. And this example right here shows you exactly what that means. A generic bot sees the word diploma and asks a simple question. But look at AgileX. It doesn't just see diploma. It sees the specific diploma, the institution, and it even understands the local South African qualification framework to know it's an NQF level 6. That's a whole other level of understanding. It's context, and it's what makes all the difference. So how in the world does it actually do that? Well, the architectural review behind this points to 3 core innovations that are really the engine powering this whole thing. Let's break them down. First up, we have something called the Role Definition Language, or RDL. The best way to think about this is like a recipe book for the perfect candidate. It's a system that lets HR pros, the people who actually know the job, define all the skills, experience, and qualifications they're looking for, all without having to write a single line of code. And the strategic value of this is just massive. It completely tears down the technical barrier that stops so many companies from using AI effectively. You're putting the power to configure the AI directly into the hands of the people who will be using it. That means it's useful from day one and gets adopted way, way faster. Okay, the second pillar is called federated bias mitigation. Now, this is really fascinating stuff. It's a way for the AI to get smarter and fairer by learning from thousands of interviews across different companies. But, and this is the crucial part, it does this without ever seeing anyone's private data. It's kind of like how your phone's keyboard learns the weird words you use without sending all your private messages to a central server. And from a business perspective, this is a huge deal. With privacy laws getting tougher all the time, having an AI that improves itself while fiercely protecting user data,
That's not just a nice feature anymore. That's a serious competitive advantage. It's all about building trust.
And that brings us to the third piece, the dynamic probing engine. This is the real brain of the operation. It's a type of AI called a reinforcement learning agent, and its job is to actually run the conversation. This is the part that tries to copy the intuition of that senior recruiter, knowing when to push, when to pivot, and how to get the most meaningful information out of someone. And that is not an easy job. This AI brain is constantly juggling a bunch of different goals all at once. It has to get enough info to make a smart decision, but it also has to keep the interview short. It's trying to keep the candidate engaged and feeling good about the process, while at the same time, it's on the lookout for any potential red flags. It's a really complex balancing act. Now, all of this, it sounds incredible, right? But with any technology this ambitious, there are always big risks. So we have to do a reality check. We have to ask the hard question here. Is this all just a little too good to be true? Any serious look at a system like this has to examine where it could all go wrong. And this review found 4 major hurdles. First, training that AI brain is really tough. Why? Because the sign of a great interview is a great employee 6 months later. That's a super slow feedback loop for an AI trying to learn. Second, you have to trust the AI. One weird or biased question could create a massive legal headache. Third, that configuration tool for HR has to be simple enough for anyone to use, but powerful enough for really complex jobs. That's a tough needle to thread. And finally, there's a paradox. How do you prove you're reducing bias if your entire system is built on not looking at sensitive data? It's a real challenge. So, okay, there are some serious challenges. But even with those risks, what does a system like AgileX tell us about the future of hiring? And really, the future of AI in business as a whole? Well, it brings up this really important distinction for pretty much every company out there. Are you just bolting on AI features to your old ways of doing things? Or are you building AI native solutions, where AI is baked into the very foundation of the process? AgileX is a perfect example of that AI native approach. It's not fixing the old process. It's creating a totally new one with AI at its heart. And that really leads to a powerful takeaway. Things like privacy and fairness in AI, they aren't just about being compliant or avoiding lawsuits anymore. Today, building ethical and trustworthy AI is a genuine competitive advantage. It helps you build a brand that the absolute best talent and your customers actually want to be a part of. So the final thought I'll leave you with is a question to ask yourself. When you look at your own company, your own industry, are you building AI as just another add-on, or are you truly building it into your foundation? Because the answer to that question might just decide who wins the next decade. Thanks for joining me.